Welcome to r/RedditRevenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story: family will not receive an inheritance after they didn't take care of my uncle. The second story: children didn't listen to the teacher and received a small punishment. The third story: client did not receive his medication because he was lazy. Today's first story is, they want my money. Oops. Backstory: in World War II, my Uncle Haj was an engineer with the RAF. He rapidly climbed the ranks and ended up being the head engineer at a local base. After the war, he met his wife of 45 years, Eve. It was the typical post-war relationship, without children though due to complications. He quickly found a job at our village coal mine, known locally as the Pit. He went from engineer to foreman very quickly. The man had a knack for leadership, that's for sure. He and Eve, some of his RAF buddies, and his sister, my grandmother, often went to Spain for holidays, at least once a year before they all retired. After that, whenever they felt like it. The family. The unfortunate truth is that family isn't always nice. My grandmother was his only surviving direct family. Eve, on the other hand, had a large family. Very large. The trouble with large families is that often there's a few bad eggs. In this case, it was quicker to count the good ones. As Haj would put it, the trouble with egg is, you can only tell the good ones by spinning them, or dunking them in water. I don't fancy going to prison. More often than not, Eve's family would drop by and ask to borrow money. Not from Eve, she had none. Haj had always been industrious, saving as much as he could, and only really spending what he had to, other than the holidays, of course. The incident: when I hit 18, legal drinking age in the UK, he took me for my first beer, as my dad worked nights and had to sleep. He didn't drink, which was uncommon for him, as he was a regular at the working men's club we were in. Me: Haj, how come you're not drinking? I can't in good conscience drink your money without you getting a sniff. Haj: well, I suppose one can't hurt. Don't tell Nip, his name for my grandmother Sheila, but I've just been diagnosed with diabetes type 2. Don't want to take any chances. Me: I'll keep your secret, but you need to tell her just on the off chance. Haj: I'll tell her in good time, kiddo. Now get it down you before it goes flat. Neither of us took much notice to the people around us, so we didn't notice Eve's nephew in the corner. 5 years pass. I've seen him a few times, less than I'd like, because of work and him going overseas. The build-up. I visited my grandparents one day to find my grandmother sobbing, with Haj sat on the sofa. Haj, put the kettle on, kid. I need to tell you something. I make a coffee for Gran and Granddad, hot chocolate for me, and green tea for Haj. Haj: now listen up. I've not got long on this wretched planet, but you're not to cry over me. I've been diagnosed with late-stage cancer and couldn't be effing happier to be leaving. To Gran: sorry Nip, I know you don't want to hear this, but it has to be said. You and yours will be looked after, of course, but you're not to tell Eve and her family. To everyone: I've made up a new will. I want everyone to go to the reading. I've prepared a little gift for the family. Shortly after this chat, we found out he passed away. Let it be said that Haj was always a man independent of others. The revenge. We went to the reading as a family like he asked. It's the only thing he ever asked of us. We'd seen people we never met, never even heard of, so of course, there were some sullen scowls across the table. Lawyer: now that we're all here, please watch this video. Haj has a message for you all. Haj from beyond. Now then, I imagine this will be a shock to most of you, but I had cancer. If you're watching this, I want you to know that some of you made my last few years pleasant. Others, well, we'll get to you. To my side of the family, not one of you came to me asking if I was all right or wanted anything doing. Instead, you asked if I wanted a hand with anything. For this, I thank you. I've never had anyone do anything for me unless they were my underlings in the RAF, and I didn't aim to start when I found out I was on my way out. You knew me better than most of my close family. I'll tell you if something's wrong. Good on you. Now then, let's get to the good bit. To Eve's family. You lot, where do I begin? When I took our Nip's grandson out for his first pint, apparently the walls have ears, and one of you overheard me tell him I had diabetes. Shame you had to say it's a shame it wasn't cancer. Guess you got your wish, huh? The rest of you, whenever you visited me, you asked more often than not if you could borrow money. It's fine, I didn't mind lending it to you, but I did expect to get it back. So here's how this is going to work. I've split my money and put it in a trust with my oldest friend, the lawyer. Nobody's getting a thing till Eve pops her clogs, so don't bother asking. Eve can stay in the house I worked my A off for until she either dies or has to go into care for any reason. The house is not to be sold until after she dies. Lazy as she is, she's still my wife. Once she dies, the house is to be sold at a reasonable price to the next owners, and the money from that is to be added to the total for my finances and split with the family. Eve's is her own, and she can do with it what she wants, other than add it to my total. Lawyer has been left instructions on this. Now here's how it'll be split. If you've borrowed money from me and paid it back, you'll get a fair share based on your age at the time of my death. If you haven't repaid the money you borrowed, you'll still get a cut, minus what you owe me. For some of you, I hope you know I'm laughing at your squirming from beyond the grave. Deserves you right, Nip, my only living family. You'll get the lion's share of whatever there is. To be done with what you will. If you're not wanting to keep it, Lawyer's been paid for any services you may require. Trust him, he's a good lad and saved my A on more than one occasion in the war. Nip's sons will get a decent chunk to help with whatever you need, and your children will be provided for as well. To my mom, not once have I heard anything bad about you. You're getting a cut too, like it or lump it. OP, you've been a great help the last couple of weeks. I called you unfairly at 3 a.m. to help me out of the bath, after finally giving up getting myself out. Sorry you had to see that. You didn't have to help the next day with the decorating either. If you weren't already on your career path, you'd make a fine tradesman. You'll receive a cut to be determined by the near future's events. Use it how you will. To the rest of you, I'm utterly effing disgusted to have known you. I mentioned earlier that Eve can live in the house till she dies, or is put into residential care. If either of these happens, nobody is to live in the house. I don't want anyone I don't trust in there. Now quit your crying and go about your lives. Hodge. As you can imagine, people kicked up a stink about this. We nodded to the lawyer and left. Shortly after the funeral, Eve went into a retirement home. With her own money, Hodges was locked up as per his request. She had more than enough to keep her afloat for many more years. A couple of months down the line, we all got called back to the lawyer's office a little bemused. Again, we're directed to watch a video. Hodge, I'm not surprised that this video has been played. Some of you just don't follow orders. If you're watching this, it means that someone I don't trust was found to be living in my house. I don't give an F who it is. Lawyer has instructions of what to do next. But for the sake of his voice and sanity, whoever was found in the house against my wishes is now stricken from the will entirely. If the others feel they want to share their money with you, that's their loss. You'll not get a penny from me. As it turns out, my cousin, who bullied me in school, and her family, as in her on and off boyfriend, 2 kids and a dog, had moved into the house after convincing Eve to move out, because they needed the house. What they hadn't counted on is nosy neighbors. Hodge asked them to watch the house, and if they saw anyone new in there or any signs of moving, to report to the lawyers for updates. In return, they'd get a cut of the money he had. They're good people. The lesson? Don't screw with the war vet. The next story is just desserts for destroying teachers' plans. This happened to my father, not me. My father was a teacher. He taught several subjects during his career and spent the last 15 years teaching science. He spent most of his career teaching the more difficult students. One year, the teachers were all upset because students kept killing their plants by ripping off the leaves. My dad wasn't really fond of plants. Even though he didn't like having a lot of plants around the house, he started thinking of ways to get the kids to stop killing the other teachers' plants. Finally, he came up with a way to teach the kids not to mess with plants. A few days later, he put 3 potted plants by the window in his classroom. He had a sign by the plants warning kids not to touch the plants because they were dangerous. He told every class that they were to leave the plants alone because something bad would happen if they didn't. Then he waited. He made sure to check the plants near the end of every class. 2 days after putting the plants out, he noticed that a lot of the leaves were missing from one plant. He had all the students line up against a wall, and he checked all the desks for leaves. He didn't find any of them. The next day, 2 students come in before school with their parents. They want to know what kind of plants he had. They had horrible rashes all over their hands and groin area. Their parents were quite upset at my dad for harming their sons. My father told the parents that every class was warned to not ever touch the plants. He showed them where the sign was and let them see the very clear warning. Then he asked the boys how they got rashes in that area. The boys had to tell their parents that they ripped leaves off of the plants of every teacher they had, and that they thought the sign was just to keep kids away from the plants. When the whole class was lined up so that everything could be searched to find out who destroyed the plant, they stuffed the leaves into their underwear. The parents were furious with their kids. They weren't pleased to have their kids get rashes from the plants in the classroom, but that paled in comparison to their anger with their kids. The boys missed several days of school until the rash cleared up. My father then told each class that the plants were poison ivy. It taught the entire class not to mess with other people's plants. You never know what might happen. It stopped the plant destruction for that year. Of course, the administration made a rule that you could not have dangerous plants in the classroom. No one thought to make a rule about this because most people do not plant poison ivy in pots and take them to school. FYI, for some reason my father does not get rashes from poison ivy, poison oak or poison sumac. Planting some in a pot was easy, as he kept some planted in an area of the backyard that he wanted my brother and I to stay away from. The last story is, everyone's got selective hearing in the pharmacy. I work at the market version of the big box store with the Spark in the pharmacy. Literally just had this conversation with a patient who's now called twice within 10 to 15 minutes. First call, the patient is asking about if we've filled his oxycodone. It's not filled out as it's out of stock, and we don't receive C2 orders except for 2 days of the week. His script came over the weekend. I inform him we won't have it until tomorrow. He then gets upset and starts asking when the order will be in time specific, when the doc sent it, and that tomorrow probably won't work for him. Told him if he wants to call his doctor and they can send it to another pharmacy and cancel it with us. Tells me he'll think about it and may call back. Now the second call. Patient, PT. Hi, I called about 10 minutes ago about my oxycodone not being filled, and I'd like to have it transferred to another pharmacy. Me, okay, so you'd have to call your doctor and have them electronically send it to another pharmacy. PT, they already have sent it electronically. You're holding it for me. Me, yes, but this type of medication cannot be transferred by federal law. PT, that's not what you told me 10 minutes ago. You said that it was no problem and could be transferred. Me, no, I did not. I told you that you would have to have the doctor call it in to another pharmacy. PT, you said it could be transferred. Me, silence since I'm done arguing. Well, you'll need to call your doctor to send it in. PT, no one even called me to let me know that it was on back order. Me, it's not on back order, it'll just be in tomorrow. PT, silence, click. Decide to look in our resolution queue at his script. Big smile across my face, I click the send out of stock text message to him. Once a Schedule II controlled medicine comes in electronically, it by federal law cannot be transferred or printed out and taken to another pharmacy. This guy's RX was out of stock. Told him it'll be in tomorrow, which he just picked it up 10 minutes ago all fine. C2 meds come in twice a week. I told him such, and if he didn't want to wait, he could call his doc to send it elsewhere to pick up. There's a process. Doc either gives you a paper RX to bring in yourself, or they prescribe it, which goes to a third party, SureScripts. Most people don't know this, before it comes to the pharmacy. Then, it's input, typed into our system. If there's any problem with it like insurance, it goes to the resolution queue. If not, it goes to the pharmacist for a quick check, 4-pointing. Next goes into the filling queue to be then checked again by RPH, visual verify. Lastly, bagged up for the patient. He didn't want to take the initiative for his own health, so it's down to just wait for the med to come in. I hope you love these stories. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to know when the new videos come out.